What is up, everybody? Tyler here with TCG University for the card game UniVersus, and today I'm going to be doing deck profile on my Satoshi one-dot deck that I played for this week's Retro Campus Championship. Now, for all of my new kids out there who don't know what Retro is a new format that Jessica is doing online on the game Tabletop Simulator, where you're allowed to play all cards from Red Horizon, the first Red Horizon set onward, excluding promos and champ cards and a few other banned cards that they have. There's a link in the description for all the banned cards, but it's a new thing that Jessica was doing. It is an extreme amount of fun. I highly suggest that you check it out. It essentially adds like 1,000 new cards into the game. It's a blast. It's super fun. So I'm going to be showing you my all Satoshi deck that I played for this week's Campus Championship. Let's see what it does. All right, first off, let's talk about what Satoshi One Dot likes to do. So he has this very cool static on him that says you get to play the first enhance every enhance step. That includes on your opponent's turn, which is great for his first E ability of check a 4 and choose an ability, an enhance ability printed on an asset or a foundation, and no more, and that ability can't be played for the rest of this enhance step. So he gets to essentially seal a foundation or asset in your opponent's staging area each turn, and you get to decide what that is before your opponent plays their first enhance, which can come in very handy, especially early on in the game when they don't have many abilities out there that do a whole lot. So it's very easy to just be like, yeah, you don't get that ever, and don't worry about it. And then the second ability of check a 4, your weapon attack gets plus X speed. X equals 4 minus the number of cards in your card pool. That is also insane. Your first attack getting plus 3 speed, essentially. Or not essentially, that's just what it literally is. Your first attack getting plus 3 speed is great, especially with some of the attacks we're playing in the game where we're playing some cards that'll ditch that attack from the card pool or add that attack back to your hand. So you get to say that you're going to sling like 2 or 3 attacks that all have plus 3 speed. And then after that, it's like this has plus 2 speed and then plus 1 speed. And then doesn't get any plus speed. But by that time, you have 4 attacks in your card pool and you're probably killing them. So that is what Satoshi likes to do. A thing I should also mention is that all of his things that he himself deals with is weapon. And that is amazing in the game right now. The Soul Calibur sets added a bunch of weapons into the game. So it is great support for him. So, with that said, though, let's move on to the attacks. The first attack I'm going to be showing you is... There it is a little bit out of order. Shadow Slicer. Of course, this is like a staple card in any deck that can play it. This card is just insane. Being able to pick it up and play it 4 times for basically free because your character checks at least twice every single attack, and you're going to be getting more Shadow Slicers in your discard pile and then picking them up and giving all these Shadow Slicers plus 3 speed and then the rest of your attack string afterwards. Crazy. Shadow Slicer is like, it's just one of the best attacks in the game, hands down. Next, I'm playing 2 Guilty Throne. Now, this being a 7 diff means that like it's a little bit scary to play, but it does get to draw you 3 cards, and it usually search 2 cards in your discard pile and add them to your hand. So say that you don't have a Shadow Slicer in your hand yet, you can add it back. Or if you have some nutty action like this one that I'm going to show you later, you get to add it on top of your deck and then draw it. Amazing. And like a 9 mid for 7, that's not bad. That's hurting people. That's just great. Next, Force Young style, one of the other best attacks in this game right now. Getting able to build something in from your discard pile because you're making a million checks is awesome. You're playing some cool assets in this deck. You're playing some cool foundations, and you want to see them. Also, it's a 5 for 5 and has powerful 4. So, like, that's all pretty good. There's not a whole lot in this deck that uses momentum. There might not actually be anything in this deck that uses momentum besides New Young style. So, being able to, like, really beef this up is great. And again, plus 3 speed on this is also really good. Next, we're going to be playing 4 Face Splitter. This card just says that after you play 3 attacks and they're getting all the speed, then you play this, and it gets plus 3. Awesome. And then it draws you a card because your opponent is probably going to be at desperation because you've been hitting them for a whole ton. Just Just an all around great attack in a weapon deck that's going to be wanting to draw a bunch of cards and uh, really just going in. It's kind of the whole point of the deck is I'm going to go in, I'm going to draw a bunch of cards, I'm going to kill you. Next is 2 Syndicate Slice. It's at a 2 of because I didn't want to play like too many attacks. Otherwise, I might have put it up higher if there weren't just so many great god dang weapons attacks in this game. But yeah, +1 your next check, and if it's blocked, you draw a card. Awesome. This essentially is like a free attack in your card pool because it basically doesn't make itself count towards the next attack, which could be just a face splitter and then plus 1,000,000 damage. Just all around great one. And they don't want to block it. So if you give it any damage at all, it's going to be scary. And then the last one is Steel Resurrection. After you've played all these weapon attacks into your card pool and hit them with them, you're going to then safely play this on a 5 and say that they can't deal with it. Also, there's an asset that I'm going to show you later that says E-commit, no more enhances can be played, and you always get first enhance. So, it's really cool. Just be like, all right, you've dealt with everything. Here's this, commit it. You now just have to deal with it. You can't do anything about it. And I know you've been saving stuff up to get ready for this because you know it's coming because I'm playing an all weapon deck. It's pretty much guaranteed. So those are my attacks. Next, let's move on to the actions of the deck, and there's quite a bit of them. The most important action I would say is Superior Techniques. Now this one is banana sandwich crazy. It says you discard a weapon card from your card pool, draw 2 cards, and then discard this card. Absolutely nutty. Crazy good with Guilty Throne, saying I'm going to stack 2 superior techs on top of my deck, draw 3, and then I'm going to play I'm going to stack them, draw this superior technique, and then ditch these both and draw another 2. Absolutely nutty. And response remove after your opponent plays ability on their character card, add any card from your discard pile to your hand. So on defense, if you really need to, you can pick up something nutty to stop your opponent, or if you just need like that one last attack to kill them with, you can respond at this back because this is a 4-diff. So if you've played 3 attacks in your card pool, you might not be able to. Actually, no. That scratch that. If you're going to be playing this in that scenario, then you're just going to ditch stuff to try to draw. But you can selectively pick what attack you want to kill your opponent with this and the thing. And then this also leads to Satoshi being able to give your next attack another +3 speed. Absolutely bonkers. One of the best actions in the game, I would say. I love that action so much. Next is 4 Let's Cut Loose. This is pretty much just like a staple in these symbols. Being able to draw 1 and add a foundation to your hand was real good. It's just all around amazing, and it's a 6-diff, or it's a 6 check. Awesome. Definitely a card that you should have no matter what. And then 1 Spell Circle. Satoshi has the Void symbol. So being able to say, well, I'll get a momentum if I really need it, or just cool, I'll remove, you discard a card. Now you have to really pick what you're going to block because you don't have so much options to deal with it. Just like a cool one of staple little action. Not staple, but a cool one of. Now, let's move on to the assets. The first asset is going to be Key-In. I love Key-In. It says whenever a weapon attack is played, it gets stun 1. Playable while committed. Woohoo. That is awesome. Everything getting plus speed and also stun 1 is great. It's also like a 2 mid block, and as breaker 1 is a 6 check. This is great. I love it a whole lot. Next is Hanya. I also really love Hanya. I was so excited for Retro to come back, specifically because of these 2 action assets. I love them so much. I've been wanting to play with them for so long. Hanya says that after a weapon attack is not blocked, or after an attack is not blocked, your opponent's difficulties get plus. Let's start that over. After a weapon attack is not blocked, your opponent's cards get +1 difficulty, and their block modifiers get +1. So on defense, you can not block an attack, commit it. Your opponent's attack it way harder to play, and then you block with a weapon card, and it readies. Because whenever a weapon card is whenever you play a weapon card, it readies itself back up. So you can take a hit, give them higher difficulty, block the next attack, take another hit, and then they can't play any more attacks that turn because they have +2 difficulty, and they're not getting past that. Or if you say they don't block your first attack because it has +3 speed, because that's insane, you get to commit this and say, well, now you're really not going to be able to block any attack afterwards because I'm about to play another weapon attack. It's going to have your block modifier is going to have +1 difficulty or +1, and I'm going to give plus speed, and I'm going to say that after it hits you again, you're not going to be able to block anything after that. It is definitely like a super win more card. Last asset in the deck is Tinbatsu. This is Satoshi's asset. It's the most important ability on it, I would say, is the E-commit no more enhances can be played. Because Satoshi always gets the first enhance, you essentially say whenever an attack is played that you really don't like, I'm going to make it flash in a roundabout way. Also, after an attack is out of your momentum, add the top card of your deck to your momentum. That's not bad. If you really need momentum for stuff, this deck doesn't necessarily do it unless you really want to like pump up the powerful in New Seong style. But this is great for the no more enhancing can be played. It's an awesome defensive piece in Satoshi. That's all my assets and actions. Next, we're going to move on to the foundations. The first group of foundations I'm going to call like my little helpers, or just like my sort of, they're not offensive and they're not defensive, but they really help out with what the deck wants to do. And the first one is going to be Artifice Avarice. This card says after it's checked, you draw a card. The second ability doesn't matter because I don't have the order symbol, so none of my attacks are going to have order, most likely. So I don't give plus speed with that. But that doesn't matter because I'm checking it at a minimum 3 times every single attack. And then there's other foundations that are also making checks to say that I'm going to be just randomly checking. I'm going to go mill through my deck, checking this and drawing extra cards just for the hell of it. It's great for that. Just like a very cheeky, oh cool, I checked a 5, let's draw a card. It's bing bong, as people have liked to call it in the past, because it's you do nothing and you get an advantage for it. Next is Profane Sanctuary. This is mainly in the deck because I'm playing Shadow Slicer, and I want to make sure that I can get those Shadow Slicers into the discard pile, and then pick them up later. Also, it's a 0/5. 3 high block isn't like amazing, but it's a cool spam, and it stops Breaker whenever that is relevant. But mainly it's to get Shadow Slicers into the discard pile. That's why I always would put it in. Next is Sense of Morals. I think this is a pretty staple foundation. It's very easy to build, and it checks a bunch of cards to make sure that you either get Shadow Slicer or you check the Avarice and you draw more cards. Getting the things that you need in your discard pile to hopefully kill your opponent. That's pretty much about it. And if they're playing stun, you get it's a hard shut off to stun, which is great. Awesome. Next is Stolen Sword. This is in the deck because of the ability of reveal a weapon card and add the next weapon foundation you play, add it down to your staging. Now this doesn't count as block, as if you block with a weapon card, it doesn't add it down, because that's a block and not a card, I guess. So, but with this, I put it in the deck, and I thought I had enough weapon foundations, and when I was sort of playing around with it, it definitely seemed like I did, but in the actual match that I played with Satoshi, I didn't. So you may want to add more weapon foundations into your deck if you're going to be playing this, but this is in here to mainly in the middle of a turn build in more foundations to make sure that I can continue playing these long strings of attacks, because I'm hopefully going to be drawing them, and it's going to hopefully, be able to play them. Also with like Let's Cut Loose, you can pick this up, build it down, commit a foundation whenever this is played, and just give yourself a whole lot of value that way. Next is my Never a Day Without Training. You're paying a bunch of assets, or a few assets, so flip, draw a card. Awesome. Also, just flip, draw a card, discard a card, or discard a card, draw a card is great by itself. I love this thing. It's also very good spam, and it's a two low block. This is a staple foundation. If you play any of these symbols, you put this card in the deck, guaranteed. Next, we're going to be moving on to the sort of aggressive parts of the foundations, and the first one is going to be True Identity. A form commit +1 of my checks for the rest of the turn is outstanding, especially with these long strings of attacks. You want to make sure that you can pass all of them. This says that early on, I'm going to be able to kill my opponent. Is another one of those things that I would consider to be a staple foundation. Next one is going to be English Aristocrat. All attacks in this deck have 2 keywords besides New Seong style. So what that says is that I get to give an additional +3 speed on almost every single attack in the deck. And then if they deal, I'll gain vitality, which is great in a 7-hander because if I get hit a little bit, I'm kind of screwed. So extra speed and gain vitality is great. You're never revealing a foundation for the second ability, but that doesn't really matter. It's mainly for the offensive bit of plus speed, gain vitality. Next, the key to there we go. Okay, a little bit out of order. Next is key to humanity's freedom. This says that I get to pick up my cool assets from my discard pile when I really need them. A turn where I'm going to kill my opponent with no matter what, I'm going to build in a Hanya and say that now you have to block everything. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to block anything. And if I have 2 of them out and I build in an asset, or if I just like build in an asset organically, giving +2 speed, another +2 speed on the next attack, or +4 and then another +4 is great. It's a good damage bonus. There's not a lot of things that pump damage in this deck, so making sure that I can kill my opponent with this is awesome. I really like that foundation. I'm leaning on calling it a staple. Next is the original Mech Ninja. This is a card that is great for checking. You get to check twice with this card, and then sometimes gives damage, sometimes gives speed. Nothing in this deck is a low attack, so it's always going to give one of the 2. And it's great for when you're playing Face Splitter, being able to play it and give an additional +1/+1. Also checking Avarice. This is perfect for checking those Avarices that you really need, or getting those Face Splitters into the discard pile. This is great for any weapon deck that you want to play under all, pretty much. Next is Coiling Contempt. I put this into defense mainly because of the Breaker 2. I never really got to use the +1 damage to weapons when you're at Desperation. But it's great for either building in with Stolen Sword or picking up with Let's Cut Loose so that you can block and Breaker 2 or do any of the other sort of cheeky things that you want to. Or if you really, really, really need to, I'll play this and then discard it with Superior Techniques to hopefully draw a cool attack that it can, pop off. Next is Perfect Accuracy. This is basically Satoshi of Flip, Seal, and Enhance, or Seal of Foundation. Probably should have been playing it out of more of, but I didn't really think I needed it. But it is a weapon foundation, so it works with Stolen Sword, and it's a pretty alright ability. It lets you seal 2 things on one turn, essentially. I'd probably put that at more of. And then the last foundation is Fei. A flip for -3 speed is just insane. It's a perfect. Once again, it is a staple foundation. If you can play any of these 3 symbols, you're gonna put 3. I'd say a minimum 3 Fei into any deck that you're gonna be playing. If you don't have this card yet, definitely go out and get it. It is a must buy. All right, and there you have it. That was my all Satoshi deck that I played for this week's Retro Campus Championship. If you would like to see this deck in action, go check out that playlist. I think it's like Retro Rumble 1 or something like that. It'll be on the channel. You'll be able to find it. I liked it a whole lot. I'm having a whole huge blast with Retro, and I definitely suggest that you guys build some Retro decks. It's a whole ton of fun. It's an absolute blast. If you like this deck, please check it out. The great thing about Retro is that you don't physically have to get the cards, so you can play whatever you want. And I really suggest that you support Jasco in this. Corona is kind of rough, and especially on a hobby, on a company that makes a hobby game. So definitely check out Retro and go give them your love and support. And if you like this video, please leave a like. It's the single greatest thing you can do for the longevity of this channel. It shows YouTube that this is content that people might want to see, and that helps us out a whole lot. If not, thank you for watching. That is more than enough, and I very much appreciate you for doing it. But with that, thank you for watching, and have a wonderful night.